So I'm really excited to be here today, and thank you to Drew and Matt for organizing everything. So today I want to talk to you about something that has been going on actively in my life and career, and I have a feeling that it's not something that only I go through, and that is the moments in time where you're transitioning, kind of like know when to hold them, know when to fold them type of thinking. And when you should keep going on a project versus start a new one or do something else. I'm going to rewind for you guys back to when I was 15 years old. I just feel like I've got 45 minutes. I should really go way, way back. I'm just kidding. So you guys are like, no, the whole life story. But this is, it kind of sets up why my first transition moment. So when I like to say when I was 15 years old, I had my first midlife crisis. I was a very intense 15-year-old girl, and I remember very distinctly experiencing an actual life crisis. I'll paint the scene for you guys. I was in social studies class, and my teacher just really decided to phone it in that day. He was like, not going to teach a lesson. So he popped in a DVD about Andrew Carnegie. That's a true story. And so I'm watching this DVD about Andrew Carnegie. I'm in Metro Detroit. I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit. And I'm in sophomore year. I'm like staring there. All my, suburban Detroit, Metro, teenage friends are just zombie-ish, doodling on notepads and stuff. And I'm actually really enthralled with this DVD. I'm watching it, and the story is really fascinating. And basically, it tells the story of how when he was 15, and I related because I was 15, he was already had his first job as a telegraph operator. He was crushing it in learning all these new skills. And then that job lands him his second job working at the Pennsylvania Railroad. And this is all happening when he's a teenager. And at that second job, he makes this observation, he notates it in a journal, that he observes that steel will inevitably replace iron for all railroads. And there's this moment where he observes that and realizes that as a teenager, and of course that lays the foundation for this absurd career that he has as an industrialist. You guys are this is so relevant to my life right now. I'm so glad she's being relevant. So I'm 15, I'm watching this, and I have this terrible feeling kind of wash over me as I watch this. It's this feeling that I'm 15 and I'm not doing anything. I'm just in social studies class right now. This is not getting me anywhere. I'm not making observations about the future of industry, right? I'm in social studies. So it sinks in for me that I am not putting myself on a path to be Andrew Carnegie, which shouldn't sound obvious. But more so that I'm not putting myself in a position to learn new things and potentially have an impact of that kind of grandeur. So again, I literally remember signing myself out, going to the bathroom, staring in the mirror and being oh my gosh, how should I change my life? And at the time, I made a conscious decision. Less than a month later, I announced to my parents that I was going to drop out of all my extracurriculars, which was varsity track and whatever else I was up to, and I was going to start a business. And their first question was what business are you starting? And I didn't even know. I was just I don't know, but one, I'm definitely starting one. And the thinking behind that, the teenage thinking behind that, was that one, Andrew Carnegie sort of did it, but then two, the thinking was that starting some kind of business or enterprise where I was interacting with the outside world was bound to teach me something about how what was going on out there versus all the activities and stuff I was doing in school. And so that was kind of a really big first shift. And I did start a business. I started a t-shirt printing business. And in reality, my career actually has been one unbroken line of ideas, starting from that first t-shirt business. And when I look back, I actually think that the 15-year-old me had observation, and that was that just getting started was really important. And obviously, I'm not still running a t-shirt business, but the fact that I got started on something, it always gave me my next idea. So, but I also think it's equally important to note at that moment that nothing was like wrong with my life. Like sometimes there's this sensation when people change paths and stuff, like that there was something wrong with what you were doing before. Like I had a fine, thing going on as a teenager. It was like getting good grades or whatever. But the decision to make like a shift was a really conscious one because I thought I could be doing something more, or it would put me in a direction where I was getting where I wanted to be. So now that we've really bonded over what I was like as a teenager, I'll move on. So I'm going to give you a little background on my more adult life now. I ended up moving out to LA, and I go to Art Center College of Design for industrial design, and I meet my co-founder, Stefan Engo. He's not here today. He's a really talented designer. We both went to design school, and I say that he's like a real designer, and I'm just like someone who went to design school. I'm probably being a little hard on myself, but he's really talented is the point. So we meet, and from that first t-shirt business I had started, I had gotten really, truly fascinated by printing and printing techniques. And I had actually started working on developing this photographic fabric dye. And I'm going to show you the video in a second. That ends up being our first business. But this photographic fabric dye business, Inco Dye, really spawned out of my very first thing, which was printing t-shirts. And so it is kind of this interesting unbroken line. So at 22, Stefan tells me about Kickstarter. We're in school together, and he's like, there's this new website called Kickstarter. It had only existed for 4 months. This is 2009. And he's like, he got a beta invitation to the website, and we posted a campaign about this fabric dye. And it's like, in hindsight, it sounds so random. It's like two college students working on a photographic fabric dye, using a 4-month-old website to try to raise money for it. But we just plowed forward with that. And so I'm going to show you a video now that gives you a little concept of what I mean by photographic fabric dye, but it's really this tool that we developed. It's an actual liquid dye, and it helps you print photography on fabric using the sun. So let me show you 1 minute about that. That's Inco Dye. It's a craft supply, and it's this product that we brought to market. We funded it through that first Kickstarter in 2009. We raised $13,000. Then in 2012, we did another Kickstarter. We raised over $250,000 for this dye. So I think this is, Stefan and I even admit now, like, it's a testament to how we put a lot of effort in to make photographic fabric dye seem cool and come off as something that could be used by other people. And it was this kind of passion project because we were so enthusiastic and excited about what it could do. And this started, like, it kicks off a series of events. The 2009 Kickstarter campaign kicks off a series of events where we actually spent 5 years of our careers working on this single product, Inco Dye. It is one product. It is sold in 8-ounce bottles. We made a couple kits as well. But we took it from being absolutely nothing, just this kind of figment in our imaginations, to being a product that had done, raised a lot of money on Kickstarter, and then we took it to retail. We ended up selling this product to over 1,500 retail stores. I've been on Home Shopping Network with it. I've done all sorts of crazy stuff, okay? We haven't come to the point where I go on Shark Tank with it. I have done all the things, all the crazy things. So, and for this product. And so the spending 5 years on a single physical product, this is where Steph and I that whole time felt like that was the right choice. Like, we had this really interesting thing. No one else was working on a product just like this. And so let's take it to the max. Let's do everything we can possibly think of to make this, interesting and relevant to other people. And at the time, that was all we were thinking about. It was our singular focus. And we get to a point where in 2014, this business is making over $1 million a year. It's profitable. We have it in all, 1,500 stores around the world. It all on the face of it sounds like really great. I mean, even when I describe it, like, that sounds cool. But the reality is that in that year, that biggest year we had yet, Stefan and I were pretty miserable. We had gotten to a place, and if you kind of hear this trajectory, we got to a place where we had done everything we could think of for this product. We had made an app for it. How do you make an app for photographic fabric dye? I don't know, we did it. It's like, what was the app about? So it was actually pretty cool, but it doesn't matter. The point is that we did all the things we could think of to do for this product, and we didn't begrudge it for a single second. But when we got to the kind of the climax of that, we had this feeling like of a lot of like self-doubt. Like that at that point, it's like this business was a vehicle for giving ourselves a whole new set of skills. And now, if we just keep applying them to this single product, we were no longer serving the product in the best way, or like taking what we learned and offering it to the world in the best way. And that becomes a second transition point. So now we're thinking, this is what I find hilarious, and I hope that it's useful to you. Thinking big is relative. It's just like being exposed to something. If you don't know you can do it until you're exposed to it. Thinking big is also relative, and I learned this through my own self over the past 18 months. When we start thinking, what else should we do? Our first ideas that we think are like wild and crazy, in hindsight, are not wild and crazy at all. We think like, what if we actually expanded the printing techniques and processes we offered? We could start selling, wait for it, silk screening kits. Like we could take our printing empire and start deviating from the norm by single degrees. And we also noticed a lot of people were coming to us for business advice because we had done all of these different things I mentioned, Kickstarter, Shark Tank, you name it. And so we noticed a lot of people were asking us for how to print their own merchandise, how to make packaging, how to do all these printing related things. So we thought all of our ideas in that early stage were what I now view as halfway solutions. We thought maybe we could start a forum about giving advice about these subjects. And so again, at the time we thought we were thinking big because it was no longer just Ink Dye. And so we actually applied to Y Combinator. How many of you have heard of Y Combinator? Okay, a lot of you. It's a Silicon Valley, accelerator, incubator type thing. So we actually applied to Y Combinator with some of our big ideas that in hindsight weren't big at all, and we got in. Again, I don't know. A lot of things are crazy. We pitched ourselves very well, but we got in with this concept of us taking our printing business further. Around that time, we really starts to sink in for us that if we're going to take the skills that we truly learned in this during these 5 years and maximize them, it has almost nothing to do with Ink Dye anymore. We ended up launching a completely new business, Lumi.com, in March of 2015, so just a year and a little bit ago. And on Lumi.com, we help people make custom packaging and all of the custom physical components that they need to package and ship their products, because we realized that what we were actually passionate about, what got us most excited about our past 5 years, was everything we learned about how to get a product to market. And we had benefited so extremely from tools you guys are all super familiar with, I'm sure, like Shopify and Stripe and Square, all of these things that made getting our business started. But the thing we found that was so painful and hard when we were running our business was the physical part. It's like, okay, cool, I launched my Shopify store, I sold something, I accepted payment from halfway around the world, but now I'm just like, get my dye into a bottle, get it into a box, and get it over to that person halfway around the world. And that was a massive challenge for us. So we decided that the thing that we really needed to do was take all of the questions that you were asking us about how to get their own products off the ground, take the things that we learned we were really passionate about by working on this for 5 years, and do that. And there is nothing easy about moving on from something that you worked on for 5 years, that you like put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and especially when everyone you know, like your friends, your family, is like, hey, you have a profitable business, like it would be completely insane for you. Like that's the pinnacle of entrepreneurialism. Like you made it to that point. Like don't mess with that. Like don't change that. But Stefan and I knew that we were ready to level up. Like we were ready to do something more with our knowledge that we had learned, and that our path was never about how obsessed we were with photographic fabric dye. It was about learning. Like it was about learning how to get something out there, how to make something that makes a smile or is to someone else's face or is useful. And that changes over time. It's like a moving indicator. It doesn't stay in one spot. You don't like get there and you're like, I'm there, like I'm done. As joyful as that would be if it was like that. It sounds amazing. So that is this big second transition point, and again looking back at it, it is so even amusing to me how Steph and I had like, many hour conversations about our big ideas, and we still are, and I'm sure that a year from now I will look back and think that I was thinking small now. Like I know it now that I've kind of been through this process a couple times, I know that. And even though right now, like the me of Mike right now is like, what I'm doing is so big, like we're gonna affect all the packaging for all the entrepreneurs. Like it feels really big right now for me. But at the same time, I hope that like in a year or 2 years from now, I can give a talk about how it wasn't, because that means I'm continuing to evolve and kind of level up in my thinking about how, and also our skills are evolving. I could have never started on this packaging business and bridging design and manufacturing when we were 22 at our center because we didn't know enough. So I want to open it up to Q&A, but I want to share one more thing that really stretches my mind a little bit. A partner at Y Combinator, his name is Paul Buchheit, has a quote that I really, really like. And he says that people at the leading edge of a rapidly changing field live in the future. And what he means is that they don't like sit around and think up or like brainstorm ideas, but their mind is already in this future place. And so it's really obvious to them what to make because they're actually just making what's missing. Like they're filling a gap that they know exists in the future world because they're like already there. And I think that you earn the right for your brain to be like living in the future world once you put in a lot of time on something. In our case, it was like 5 years building our own singularly focused physical product business, gave us a concept of what people building physical product businesses are facing, and now we knew a little bit, like a little insight to build something that they might need. And I just think that's a really interesting thought. Let me progress to this. This is just the slide about what our new interface is like, with the ability for people to upload any logo and quickly order things like custom packing tape and all of these very real, tangible things that businesses need to run. So that's my fancy new business slide. But I'd like to close it now and open for questions, and here we go.
Sounds like, is it fun?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It sounds like you've seen the evolution of crowdfunding on Kickstarter from the beginning to now.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on the things that have changed in the past several years.
Yeah. Yeah, we have gotten a very interesting front row seat to crowdfunding, especially Kickstarter. When our first 2009 campaign succeeded for $13,000, there was a moment, it was like a few days, where we were the largest campaign ever on Kickstarter. $13,000 gives you a frame of reference for time elapsing. The founders called us to say congrats on the campaign. Harry and Nancy called, and then they found out that we lived in LA, and they had never hosted a meetup in LA, and they're like, you live in LA, we should do a meetup in LA, like, you guys could just host it. So it was like, that's what it was like. In 2012, we ran a campaign. By that time, Kickstarter was very well known. The big difference in actually running the campaigns between 2009 and 2012 was that people did know what it was. In 2009, actually, half our time explaining to, like, trying to get people to back us was explaining what it was. Like, that it was safe enough to put your credit card in there, and that, like, people would be like, I haven't been charged yet, I don't get it. Like, it was just very confusing back then. In 2012, it was much easier. I am still a firm believer in, like, everything for crowdfunding, it's about the story, not about the product. I actually think our product is an excellent example of that. Like, the fact that photographic fabric dye can earn $250,000 it's a cool product. Like, I'm not trying to demean my own product, but it actually spells how powerful storytelling is, I think, on those platforms. Hi.
My question is, will you marry me?
Interesting. Let's have a drink later.
Love that you told the story at the beginning about when you were 15. I actually started my first business when I was 15.
Cool.
And I would call local competitors and find out the rates for projects, and then
Good tactic. Strong move.
But being that type of person often comes with anxiety, being someone who puts pressure on yourself. I'm curious what your thoughts are on managing that for yourself.
That's a really good question. I don't know yet, would be the honest answer. I would say I've come up with mechanisms over time. Something that I learned, like, maybe all of you have, like, known this exists, like, it's really obvious, there's a lot of talk about on the internet, like, imposter syndrome. I don't know if I just wasn't spending enough time on the internet, but, like, I had, like, not come across that term until last year when I was going into Y Combinator, and I was like, this is what I have. Like, it was like a diagnosis. I was just like, it's like being on WebMD and being like, that's me. Like, so I think that something I believe that actually just really works for me is understanding that I've run into so many business people, some of them, like, ridiculously successful, and it's very rare that I run into someone that I feel like has truly, like, natural confidence, where they're just like completely feel like they've got it no matter what. And that I draw from that. What I mean is, like, we're all in this boat together. I draw from that sensation that as much as I feel like I don't have it together or have anxiety about something or if I'm getting it right, we all do, and you should all just draw from that. Like, why not you? Like that's always the question. Like, why, if you're thinking, like, how could I be the one who gives this talk, or how could I be the one who starts this business? Like, the opposite question is why not you? And it's just as relevant. So just go out there.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I was wondering if you're still running the EcoDive business, and if you are, like, how do you manage them together?
That's a really good question. So we are technically still running the EcoDive business. We are also talking to an art supply company who we met in our art supply tenure, who might take the EcoDive line into their product lineup, which would be actually awesome because we clearly aren't the long-term stewards for it anymore. And I kind of view it that way. It's like a stewardship. Like, if you build a cool product, it actually should have a life after you. Like, there's no reason to snuff it out. Like, I spent 5 years on EcoDive. It's really cool. I still believe that. I'm just not spending every day on it anymore. So we are actively looking for its, like, kind of next life. In the meantime, we still make the product. We have a facility in Los Angeles where where both businesses have space. But it is not our daily focus. So we ultimately will have, like, I believe, like a second life beyond us. Hi.
So I really love packaging, and
Me too.
every time Christmas comes by, I would like wrap home friends' presents.
Yeah.
It's not just like wrapping it with tissue paper in it, rip in it, and put a bag over it, and add a card, and
Nice.
tag, everything. I love creating that experience for people to be present and have the anticipation
Mhm.
before they open it. So like I've had friends like sell on Etsy and ask me about,
Yeah.
hey, someone bought my product, but no, I don't know like how to ship it out and
Right.
teach it, to create that life. So I was wondering how do you package something like that? How do you create that experience?
Yeah. So I have a perspective on packaging now from Inkodai, and then from this new business where like we have thousands of businesses using Livy.com for their packaging, and everyone from like an Etsy seller to businesses that are shipping like 100,000 units a month or something, which is more than we ever did at Inkodai. So it's been really fascinating to see that from the inside. With Inkodai, part of our focus on packaging design was around being different in that industry. Our packaging probably doesn't look like it wasn't revolutionary in its design. I mean, we used black bottles, but we had this very clean aesthetic, a lot of black used in the branding. And I don't know if you've recently walked into like a Michael's Art and Craft or a Joann's, but there's not a lot of black branding in those stores. It's like light pink, light blue, like it's very crafty. Sparkles are like a real branding mechanism there. So we just by being clean and somewhat appy in our web design, we stood out like a sore thumb in a good way, like we wanted to. In physical packaging, especially for packaging for fulfillment, which is what we focus on now, I'm just such a firm believer in finding the right packaging fit for the cost of the product as well. I'm like a business person like to my core, and since I really enjoy, the best solution is something that has an excellent price associated with it as well. And so that's what I love about running a new business, is like someone comes to me and they say like, we think we want custom boxes and this and this and that, and I will show them all the pricing, but then we have recommendations for businesses that are shipping 50 units a month or businesses shipping 500,000. You don't have to have worse packaging at different levels because you have different budget. It's just about your selection and your choices. And so I love zeroing in on those right choices for each person.
Did you and your collaborator come to the realization that it was time for a transition at the same time? Like, how did you approach that? I feel like it could be awkward if it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Stefan and I have, for a while, since school, we've been both business partners and in many ways best friends. So I'm really lucky to have a co-founder that we weren't like, hey, want to start a business? We were really good friends, and then we started a business together, and and that's our life. And so I don't think we hit realizations together. I think that in reality, if he's probably being honest with himself, he probably wanted to move on from Inkodai even sooner than me. It was really originally like this genesis from my teenage business or whatever, and he is very technologically inclined, and he's the one who developed our Inkodai app and everything. It's like, I think in many ways he treated Inkodai as his training ground, and but in late 2014 we both felt like it was sort of time to move on, and I think that the reason why it happened at the same time was that sensation of having tried all of the things, where like there's just this moment you get to where it's like, again, listing off those things like Kickstarter, HSN, Shark Tank, retail stores all over the world, it's like, what else could we do for that product? And I do feel like we reached that sensation at the same time. Like, there's only so many new ideas to bounce around, and we're both really active-minded people, and so when we started running out, it was like, we need to move on.
So, after you decided that you needed to move on from some things, I'm sure you had lots of ideas over the years for businesses and products and opportunities to jump on. What made Livy.com the one that you wanted to invest yourself in next?
Yeah, I will be really, really frank with arduous and not obvious. Like if I talked to you about this idea 1 year ago, we launched Lumi.com and there's only 3 products on the site: rubber stamps, decals, and silkscreen kits. We basically hadn't stretched our minds enough yet to understanding that the real solution, the real problem we were fixing was that brands need to, that companies need to physically brand themselves. We were still doing these like halfway things. So part of my answer is, like, we ripped the Band-Aid off before having the solution, but we did it anyway, and then we were like threw ourselves in the deep end, and then we were like, oh gosh, this is not working, we better figure this out. So that's the honest answer. And then I think continually how we got there was continually asking ourselves what was our core insight? Like what was the thing that was really driving us that we could imagine ourselves working on for like another 5 years, another 10 years, and that solution ended up being very packaging and manufacturing related. I love manufacturing, like I love how it works. I love bridging, knowing so much about design and how separate those worlds usually are. I just love the idea of bridging those things, like making there's so many machines on planet Earth, they all make things, and designers are usually so abstracted from them. And so if we could put those options on the site, that was just so exciting to me. And so the core question is, like, can you imagine yourself working on it for another 5 years? Like, until you dial that in, it's not right yet.
I have a question.
Okay.
The name Lumi,
Yeah.
how did that come about? And was that like, I don't know, what was it like getting a domain?
Yeah. So I named Lumi when I was 16. It was my name for the Inkodai project because it meant like Lumi, luminescence, light. I have a notebook entry where I like wrote Lumi, like L-O-O-M-I, question mark, like, and then I was like, no, it's dumb. Like I like wrote that. I was like, no, it's dumb. L-U-M-I, and like so I named it then. I named it that then. Then it was like Inkodai by Lumi for that whole time. And then when we started the new business, there was this big question of like, most people would have just started a new business and called it a new thing. But we had such this deep connection with the Lumi name. We were like, we're gonna keep the Lumi name. We're gonna spin Inkodai out as a separate thing. And that is probably I don't think it's a normal decision. Like most people who start a new business, just name it a new thing. But we felt very attached to the name. We always had Lumi.co. We had like a 5-year conversation with the owner of the Lumi.com domain. And we ended up buying it when we joined Y Combinator. We did end up paying for it. I will tell you, we paid 20 grand for it. Yeah. So I mean, I'm an honest person. So I would like to say like, and then I just got it for free. I did not get it for free, but we felt like, again, this was after 5 years. We had been on a 5-year journey naming everything that we were doing Lumi, and we were just, I was the one who was like, no, I will never spend 20 grand on anything but a car. And Stefan was like, you must, and so we did it. That was seriously, like, I was the one who was like, no, like, my heart is palpitating. And he was like, I'm doing it, I'm wearing it, and I was like, stop! That was like a real conversation we had. Like, yeah, so, but that's the truth.
Anybody else have a question? All right, thank you, Jesse.